So in today's tutorial we're going to look at how to make a non-edible Pokeball for the top of a Pokemon cake. So first of all we're going to need, for the base of the Pokeball, I'm using this polystyrene ball which is I think 6 centimetres. It's a 6 centimetre polystyrene ball. I got this from a local art and craft shop, but they're available on the internet. You get them in packs of sort of 8 or 10. They're quite cheap. A cutter, I think this probably is about maybe 9 or 10 centimetres. It needs to be bigger than the ball, obviously, because it's going to wrap around. I've got a goodly amount of white fondant, some red fondant, some black fondant, a sharp knife, a rolling pin, and I'm just going to use this really very old ruler, baking ruler, just to make sure my lines are straight. But if you've got a steady hand, you don't need that. So to make a start, I'll just put these over here. First off, I'm going to soften up this fondant, and I'm just going to roll it out onto my board. Got a little bit of red in there, as you can see, so I'm just going to take that out. So I've just rolled that till it's probably about 2 millimeters thick, and I'm just going to press down with my cutter, give it a bit of a twirl just to get some of the jaggedy edges off. Put that to one side. So we've got quite a nice disc here of white fondant. And I'm just going to pat down the sides because, as you can see, there's some sort of ragged edges, so just run your finger around those. Doesn't matter too much with this design, but with other things where you're just using a disc like that, it's nice just to smooth down the edges. So now I've got a nice wide brush here. It's clean. I've cleaned it. Got some extra little hairs there, but they're not going out anywhere. So I've got just a tiny little dash of water in this ramekin. I'm just going to put that on my brush, and I'm going to just use don't know whether you can see, there's a central line on this ball going around. I'm just going to use that as a guide. It doesn't matter if you do it another way, but just going to wet this ball all over the top of it, getting water all over as I go. That's handy. Just to help the fondant adhere or stick to the top of the ball. So again, I'm just going to use this as a guide. Put the centre of my fondant disc onto there, and you'll see it's sticking quite nicely because of the water. I'm just going to smooth it down in all directions, and it actually sits quite nicely on that line, but you will just need to go around a few times and smooth it down so that it all sits nicely against the ball. Now it's not going to be, it looks like a little man with a hat on. It's not going to be an absolutely straight line around there, but we'll not worry about that at the moment. You'll see why. So there's one half, that's the bottom half of the Pokeball, I think. It's red on top, white on the bottom. But I've actually done the white first, and here's a little tip for you, because using the red fondant I will get sort of red stain on my fingers, so I've just used the white first, and then I don't have to worry too much about getting any red on there. So I'll just sit that there nicely, and I'll take the red fondant now, just give it a nice squidge because it's dried while it's been sat. I think actually what I'll do, no, I'm going to leave it like that. Now I'm going to roll out my red fondant to approximately the same thickness as the white, so about 2 millimeters. This is a bit bit more sticky, the red, because it's got quite a lot of colouring in it. So there we are, nice smooth piece of fondant. I'm just going to push that down nice and firm to make sure, give it a twist to make sure it's all cut through. Put that to one side, and there we have a nice red disc. So I'm just going to do the same as I did for the white and just go round and make this wet basically. Without the water, the fondant wouldn't stick, and you'd find it really difficult to get it to stay on the ball. You'd have air bubbles and all sorts. So there we are. So that's nice and wet. So I'm just going to place the centre of my ball again on the centre of, the centre of the disc on the centre of the ball. And once again, just go round and gently push it down. Don't worry too much about the if it meets or if it doesn't meet at the moment. As long as you've got it fairly central, it will all work out. Fits really nicely there. We'll just keep going around until all of it is stuck down. It's important to do this while this bottom half is not yet dried solid, because we don't want to, any finger marks that we put in there when holding it, we can smooth away again. Okay, so that's all fitting quite nicely. Now what I'm going to do, it fits quite nicely there, but I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to run it basically around the very centre of the ball, like so, and just cutting as far down as I dare. It's the red that's overlapping the white, so I'm cutting mostly into the red, and I'll just meet it round here like that, and then I should be able to, in theory, go back and just dig out the little bit of, it doesn't want to come away, it's obviously got a little bit damp, but pull off the little bit of red that I've just cut off and roll it round. There we go, it's coming out now. And just remove that little bit of excess. We'll just clear that out the way. And then what we can do is just go round and push the two edges together. Let's get rid of that. Push the two edges together. Now it doesn't matter if it's not massively neat, because a Pokeball, as you probably know, has got a black stripe around the middle, which is going to cover any wonky bits, for want of a better phrase. So there we have the ball. It's that way up, isn't it? So you might just want to spend some time just with your fingers, with the palm of your hand, just smoothing it so it's nice and smooth. We haven't got any finger marks on it. You have to handle it very gently because it's still wet at the moment. So I'm just going to give it a bit of a twirl in my hands, and that way, just to smooth it off and make it into a nice ball. So I'm just going to place that over there. As I say, don't worry about the wonky middle bit, because we're going to deal with that now with the black fondant. So now comes the fun part, trying to get this to the right length and the right size. So what I'm going to do, I've just smoothed that off so it's a nice smooth ball of fondant. And with my palms, I'm just going to make that into a thick sausage. And with the rolling pin, first of all, lengthways, I'll just make it a little bit wider, but not much, because we aren't actually going to need a thick wedge of this. And just roll it out ever so gently from the middle upwards and from the middle downwards. I find if I try and go from one end to the other, I get it sort of bubbles up, and then I'm rolling it down onto itself, if that makes any sense, rather than rolling it along. And we don't want that. We want it to be nice and smooth and crease free, sticking. There we go. So that's quite a nice smooth ribbon of black. That should be enough to go around the whole thing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my ruler, and I do have a steady hand. I'm not giving myself enough credit there, but just if you've got a flat surface like this, it really does help to get a nice straight line. So I'm just going to cut along there, take that bit off, and then lift this gently. See, it's stuck. So just place that back onto the board. I've now made that not straight, so that's helpful. So just straighten that out as best you can again. And I'm just going to place this on, and I think probably a ribbon of, I'll just make that straight with the side of the ruler. There we go. A ribbon of probably about, I don't know, 3/4 centimetre maybe, widthways. There we go. I'll just cut that along there as well, and then we've got a nice ribbon there. I'm not bothered about the ends because we're going to cut those off. So just get rid of that. So probably the best thing to do is just turn it over so that you've got the back facing up. And I'm just going to use this same brush, get rid of most of the dampness off it though. Use the same brush and just put a tiny bit of water on the back of the ribbon all the way along. And then I'm going to take the Pokeball, and in the middle I'm just going to place that, excuse my hair if you can see it, so place that on the ribbon and then pick up one end and place it on the Pokeball, and then pick up the other end. You're not going to need all of this, as I say, because I've done it too long, and just place it on. So I shall just nick off, there we are, that little piece there. And actually what's probably going to be best is if this is a nice straight edge now, so I'm just going to press down on the bottom ribbon, peel the top one back a little bit, get rid of that non-straight edge, and place that back together again. Okay, again, it's not, despite my best efforts of keeping it the same width, it hasn't quite come out the same. So I'm just going to put that there, I'm not worrying about it. We'll use this as the front. Okay, so I'm now going to use these 3 little metal cutters, which I've had for a lot of years. This one is maybe 2 centimetres, 1 centimetre, half a centimetre. I just bought those at the cake decorating shop. They weren't expensive, I use them all the time. But if you haven't got the cutters, the bottom of, if you've got any piping nozzles, then the bottom of a piping nozzle would do, but you'd need 3 different sizes. Or, as I do for smaller little circles, you can just use a small ball like that, and then you literally use your finger to flatten it out and smooth it. And you can make quite a nice little ball disc for that. But I want these ones to be quite thin, which is a little bit tricky if you haven't got the cutters. So just roll out the black fondant as thin as you dare, really. Obviously the thinner the fondant is, the trickier it is to handle and keep in shape. So I'm going to use my bigger of my small cutters and just cut out a small disc like that. Now this is where it gets quite important, just to smooth off the edges really delicately. So as I say, this is quite thin fondant, and you don't want to stop it being a circle. So I'm going to place that centrally over that join, and you see what I mean, that covers that over really nicely. Now with that, I'm not using any water to stick it because the black fondant is still quite sticky, so that's fine, you don't need any water. I'm just going to take a little bit of the white and just roll that out as thin as I can. Right, so this is the middle-sized cutter, so just cut that out. That's cut quite a nice clean circle. The metal cutters are a lot better for that than the plastic ones. Just place that one in the centre. Again, I don't need water because it's nice fresh fondant and it's only a little piece. And then finally, I should have left this rolled out, but I didn't. I'm going to use this smallest cutter just for the centre. Centre of the Pokeball. So again, push, twist, and then you might need, oh, I can do it with my little finger. Don't get that stuck on my little finger. Now we have the centre ball, and I'll just move that fondant out from the back. Pop that right in the centre of the ball. And there we have a nice Pokeball for your Pokemon cake. Now I also have a little tutorial to make a Pikachu, which is going to go on the top of this cake with the Pokeball. I will put a link at the top of this so you can get to that and see how easy it is to make a Pikachu. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate every like, comment, share and subscribe on my channel. Please come back and have a look at some more of my videos. Thank you. Bye bye.